Who is Dr. Schulenberg? Dr. Schulenberg, as you guys probably know, the media narrative, all the magazines and outlets tell us that Dr. Schulenberg had been Kirk Johnson's doctor for the last 16 years. That was as of 2016. Now, we were told that to protect Prince's privacy, that Kirk contacted Schulenberg for the pain medication on April 14th. And that's basically the extent of the media narrative and the involvement of Dr. Schulenberg. For his involvement, for what they allege, prescribing opiates in Kirk's name, allegedly for this one they're calling Prince, he was fined $30,000, slapped on the wrist, and then all the charges were released, as you can see here. That was on 11/4/19, which is relevant to the date 1914, which is sung about in Family Name. Devil, devil, you've been here since 1914. So here's Dr. Schulenberg's picture as presented in the media. Now, what I'm going to let you guys know is the real truth behind, what the media narratives don't tell you. So the contact actually started on April 7th, according to the media narrative and the evidence that is portrayed. So I'm going to do it in chronological order. Here we have this text that's dated on April 7th at 5:45 a.m. The interesting things are that if Dr. Schulenberg is Kirk's doctor for the past 16 years, he hits him up with a text at 5:45 a.m. saying, "Good Mr. Doctor." Okay, he doesn't know his name. He doesn't call him Dr. Schulenberg, not anything. And the other thing is, MRDR, when you sound it out like the game Balderdash, is murder. Good murder. Just wondered, is there any way we can get fluids for Prince this morning? Please let me know. And then by the response, you can tell where he says Kirk, that someone probably asked him, who is this? And he said Kirk, because why else would he say his name? And then another response is missing because he says, even if there's a private area, let me know. So they're deleting texts. And then they pop in another text from the responder, who is allegedly Dr. Schulenberg. Good morning. We do have a private area. The urgency center does not open until 11. There are 2 back entrances. It would have everything needed. I would need to go over and make sure supplies are accessible and could do that by 7. That's what they want us to believe the response was. Now, Kirk goes on to say he would rather if a doctor could come to him. Do you have any other suggestions? Supposed to fly out today for a show. He might have some other issues, I think. Right there is the guilt where when everybody's being interviewed, everybody says, oh, we don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. There's a confession of guilt. But anyway, supposed to fly out, other issues. If you call me when able, doctor, give me first name. Always say last name. It has slipped my brain. Now, why would Kirk ask his Dr. Schulenberg, who has been his doctor for 16 years, to give him his first name? That it always slips his brain. This led me to think that they were talking about the Kornfelds, Howard and Andrew, because if they were always saying their last name Kornfeld and he needed to know a first name, then there's that possibility. So, obviously. Anyway, now here, this is interesting because if you zoom in on this text, you can see up here at the top, it says April 7th at about 10-something a.m. Can't really see it all the way. But allegedly, the doctor is saying, I hope things went reasonably well for your boss. Have a safe trip. Blah, blah, blah. You can read the rest. Arranged to do testing. And then Kirk allegedly asked, how did it go? No complications. He just doesn't look really well. If you've known him longer, you can tell that better me. Blah, blah, blah. That means that they had contact and that Kirk wasn't there. So it leads me to believe that this so-called Prince was dropped somewhere or whatever, because otherwise Kirk wouldn't be asking, how did it go? So the fact that he said he doesn't look really well, you can do what you want with that, but we're going to keep going. Now, here's what the detectives had to say and, some of the testimony itself. Again, this is in chronological order, so stick around. Schulenberg, I'm going to skim you guys because the important parts are that Schulenberg said that he met Prince on the 7th and got asked about his medical history. He said he could not administer the IV fluids at Paisley Park. So here's what's important. Schulenberg arranged for Prince to meet Schulenberg at his office. He said his office is located at 15450 Highway 7. Okay. Now, this next part of the investigation says, in this visit, Schulenberg met Prince at Paisley Park and then transported him to the clinic. That is a far cry from arranging for Prince to meet Schulenberg at Schulenberg's office. Then here it says he transported. So that is what's a big deal and lets us know that we're dealing with shady information. Again, I'm trying to keep these short, so I'm skimming the pertinent information. Here, if you want to go back and read, is where Schulenberg says that he was his patient for 16 years, that in the fall of 2015, Kirk actually contacted Schulenberg to see if he'd be interested in helping him. Nothing came to fruition until April 7th. Okay, and then they go on to talk about the IV fluids and the address. So Schulenberg is a doctor at North Memorial Clinic and saw Prince the prior day. I asked Schulenberg if someone from here requested his presence, and he said no. Schulenberg said it was a complete coincidence that he had showed up at Paisley Park to meet with Prince to discuss substance abuse treatment. Now, a complete coincidence, you guys? Come on. When he was saying that he was bringing over the paperwork, this one says complete coincidence. So I'm just going to show you how none of what they're saying is true. Anyway, and this was where he talks about entering through the back of the building and coming into the urgency part of the center that was not open for patient care. Now, what's relevant about that, you guys, is that it was said that Dr. Schulenberg did vasectomies and had access to Valium, and that they were using a side of the clinic that not only was it not open to public patients at the time, it wasn't open for public to come visit at all. It was an unused portion of the clinic. That's what I read into his testimony. So anyway, the contact goes on. Schulenberg says that on the 8th, Marone texted her at lunch and said, "Could Prince talk to you?" Blah, blah, blah. The interesting thing here, if you're following the investigation, is that on the 8th, this Marone said that Prince had seen a chiropractor that night. If you read in the book, Dan Piepenbring says that on the 7th, that notary had come out, and that's when Prince signed the one-time power of attorney to have the book rights signed over to Phaedra. And then having seen a chiropractor that night, which would be the 7th, that's just weird because you're having the chiropractor and the notary over on the same day, this day that there was supposed to be a concert. So no. And I think the chiropractor they're mentioning is Dr. Isaacson, because when we get into the emails in a different part, when we're talking about Marone and that, you can see where how on the evening of the 20th at about 5:30, I believe, somebody says that the chiropractor is available that evening. So what they're doing is they're taking these texts and this emails and the information they have, and they're twisting them and coordinating them to fit their scenario. So I'm trying to make it make sense for you. So anyway, so he said he talked to him on the phone on the 8th, and then the next contact was the 21st. Here's another statement by Schulenberg that's very intriguing. Prince told me that he was taking Tylenol, and I asked him if there was any other ingredients in the Tylenol, and I believe he said no or didn't know. So you tell me why the family physician would ask if there were any other ingredients in the Tylenol. Okay, Schulenberg said the only thing that I regret, and I'll be perfectly honest, is that Kirk said it would be better if I provided the Percocet prescription under his name. He said that it would be documented in the medical record for Kirk Johnson and stating that it would be used for back pain. So there's another lie, because as we know, this next piece of the investigation has Kirk calling. This one says Dr. Schulenberg admitted that Kirk also contacted Dr. Schulenberg on the 14th, asking if Prince could have some medication because Prince's hip was bothering him. Schulenberg said he felt comfortable prescribing the medication because he had just seen Prince on the 7th. Listen, they just said up here that he called, and they're saying that Kirk called and asked for hip pain medication, okay? But then Dr. Schulenberg put it in his file that it was for Kirk's hip, okay? And it was a one-time medication that he could pick up, okay? So there's obviously a lot of lies going on here. And of course the lie is that Prince didn't want any narcotics in his name, so he got it privately. Now dig this, you guys. I could show you all of his 30-some pages of phone records, but I'm not going to do that. This is Kirk Johnson's phone records starting at 12:46 in the afternoon on the 14th. You can see, and I did the investigation for you, these, you can see here that at 12:41, Kirk makes an outgoing phone call to Dr. Sarah Boo, the dentist, 12:41. Okay, 12 minutes, 41 seconds, outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Then at 13:03, which is 1:03 p.m., there is an incoming call from Dr. Schulenberg. Another incoming call a moment after that's 31 second long. And then another. Okay, but the thing is, they say that Kirk contacted Schulenberg, but Kirk didn't contact Schulenberg. Schulenberg contacted Kirk, pardon me. So, yeah, you'll get the gist of that later. So, obviously, I'm going to stick to the Schulenberg here, but Sarah Boo, she's coming up too. Why would Kirk need to make a 12-minute phone call to the dentist that he also got medication from? We'll talk about that later. Anyway, if you didn't hear me, Kirk didn't contact Schulenberg. Schulenberg contacted Kirk. So, the interesting thing is, while Schulenberg is being interviewed here, he said that he has documented all the prescriptions, and then he said, oh, I take that back. He prescribed Zofran and vitamin D for Prince on April 7th. So he went to Paisley Park at 6:45 in the morning. He said, couldn't give him fluids there. So one story says he transported, the other one said he made arrangements for him to come to his doctor's office. Then he put the prescription in somebody else's name. Then while he was being asked about it, he said, oh, whoops, I did prescribe stuff on the 7th, but it was Zofran and vitamin D. But we went ahead and put that in Kirk's name because they're not controlled substances. But the thing is, you guys, later on when we get to the RX, those prescriptions that he wrote for Kirk Johnson, those were filled at CVS pharmacies, and there's a whole another lie that goes with that. So this just has him backtracking and writing scripts on the 7th. And then also on the 18th, Schulenberg says that Kirk texted him. And if you take pictures, you'll see this. And, he called me and then he informed me that there was concerns regarding opiate abuse. That's the story anyway. So here's the text. On Monday the 18th, Mr. Mike, not Dr. Schulenberg, not Mr. Murder Doctor, just Mr. Mike. Can you call me? That's pretty casual for a doctor relationship, don't you think? Mr. Mike, can you call me when you get a free moment? Thanks. Dr. Mike, I do want to talk some more and get some good recommendations. I'll see you tomorrow. Tuesday, which is Tuesday the 19th, you guys, this is relevant because we've talked about the prescriptions, CVS prescriptions that were found in the trash can outside of the Paisley Park studio were written on the 19th and not the 14th. And those were CVS prescriptions, again, in Kirk's name. So some doctor in Kirk or whoever, Dr. Mike, they were scheduling appointments for the 18th and 19th. Should I call the office? Blah, 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 30 minutes. Now, this is interesting because, again, when they're interviewing Schulenberg, it says his next contact, this is what Schulenberg said, that his next contact with Prince was on the 21st. Prince passed on the 21st, and Schulenberg says in the recording that it was yesterday. So just slip of the lips there. Schulenberg goes back to explain what procedures were completed, so they say, on the 20th. They say he did some vitals and gave him some IV fluids, and that's it. And there's, of course, the good old back door of the 15450 clinic. Now, you guys, while they were in the appointment, when you read the investigation, it's alleged that Kirk took Prince to the doctor, and what they say is during that doctor's appointment that Schulenberg gave IV fluids, and he confessed to putting clonidine, hydroxine into those IV fluids, and then also Kirk left in the middle of the appointment to go and pick up another prescription for clonidine. Both of those things will put you out. They try to say they're for high blood pressure and something else, I can't remember, allergies or something. You ever take your allergy medicine and some clonidine together? You ain't waking up. So, no. Anyway, and then get this. Schulenberg goes on to say, and after looking up opiate withdrawal treatment on the computer, I issued a prescription for Valium. Okay, Valium, really? All right. Okay, and here's a really telling statement, you guys. This is Schulenberg, prior to discharge, there was still, Prince and Kirk left around 6:30, because I had picked my daughter up at gymnastics at 6:45 over by Paisley Park, actually. And I want to pause right there for a minute, you guys, because this is super important. This is where, when I've said before that I believe that all of these things happened at one time. after the Moline incident, and they're trying to spread it out over the 7th, 14th, and 20th to make it seem like they were trying to get help for this person that they're calling Prince, and this is their concocted story, but as we break it down, we're seeing why what they're saying isn't true. But my point is, 6:30 and 6:45 here coincide. He's saying on the 20th that when Kirk and Prince came over, that they left about 6:30. Because I had picked my daughter up at gymnastics at 6:45, but the fact is, when we first started this video, he says that he arrived at Paisley Park at 6:45, which leads me to believe that they're swapping times, AM and PM. They use military time and regular time throughout the files as well to confuse. So just something to watch out for. Now, granted, no child is going to be taking gymnastics at 6:45 in the morning, but 6:45 at night would lead me to believe that the story they're telling about seeing the black SUV pull up, and that is not true, because I think that Dr. Schulenberg transported him, and that's why he had picked up his daughter at gymnastics, pardon me. So anyway, little tidbits for you. Now listen, he goes on to talk about what effects Valium would have, and he said that if anybody were to take all three of the pills, clonidine, hydroxine, and Valium, together, if you were to mix them, it would cause health problems. And he said only if you intentionally overdosed on them. And then he also went on to say that they're all routinely taken together for opiate withdrawal symptoms. That is a flat-out lie. Anybody who's ever loved an addict or tried to take them to a rehabilitation clinic or a doctor will know that they do not prescribe opiates or any other kind of drugs for an addict. They, in fact, make you clean before you have to be clean before you can be treated. It's just an obvious thing. So what a lie. Anyway, the other thing here, you guys, in reading the doctor's notes from 420, it said that this Prince was 109 pounds and 5'4", not 5'2", okay? Just another note. And those three prescriptions, obviously, those were the ones that were retrieved from Kirk's Aunt Charlene's house. This isn't about Kirk, it's about Schulenberg, but those prescriptions were in Kirk's house. Now, here is allegedly, they don't tell us when this text is because it doesn't have a date, it just says yesterday. Doctor, could we please come in tomorrow night after hours? Do any test we can. Take blood as well. Give me a time. I would love for you to be there with us. Why is Kirk saying I would love for you to be there with us? Can you give me your email as well, please? Now, later on, it goes on to say, and we're assuming that this is Kirk because Kirk is talking about going in. It says Kirk, getting any blood tests we can, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, Doctor, am I supposed to take all three of these medications? There are 3 bottles. Oh, never mind. You mean the 3 prescriptions that you just prescribed up here? Yeah, I think so. That were taken out of Kirk's house by his alleged Aunt Charlene. Anyway, again, these are in order, so they want us to believe that the next day that Mike Schulenberg is bringing over Prince's records. So this would be Kirk saying, yes, you could come over. I'll meet you at the South Gate. Okay, about 15 minutes, thanks, on the way. Well, okay, where are you going, Kirk? Where are you on the way to on April 7th at 7:49? Because that's what that says right there. On the way, 7:49 a.m. Just text me when you get here. Here? Okay, I need to get back in. Sorry. So Kirk saying he needs to get back in goes along with those pictures of him carrying medication in through the back door. And that would be April 7th, not April 20th. So I think that they're just mixing and lying about everything. Here's something else, you guys. 154, or excuse me, at the very beginning, we are told that Dr. Schulenberg's address is the 15450 Northridge or whatever it is. However, let me show you something. Sorry about the scrolling. I got to show you. These pills right here, these CVS pills that were in Kirk's name. Actually, these are the Walgreens ones. My bad. Look at here. See how this says Michael Schulenberg, MD? Okay. Now look. The charges were released on Michael T. Schulenberg, North Memorial Healthcare, okay? But when you look up, when I went ahead and looked up Dr. Schulenberg, I got this Ridgeview Excelsior Clinic. Hold on, I have the address somewhere else. And it came up as Water Street. Here it is. Okay, Dr. T. Dr. Michael T. Schulenberg, 675 Water Street, Excelsior, Minnesota. So allegedly there's one Dr. Schulenberg here, but then throughout the investigation, obviously, we're told that he says that his clinic is at 15450 Highway 7. Those are two different completely different places, as well as two different doctor names, because, you know, when you're writing prescriptions and everything, you got to be pretty particular. So I think a Michael T. Schulenberg and a Michael Schulenberg would be different, and there are the address differences as well, because everybody in this investigation seems to have a dual identity. Now, here's where the cockamamie story gets even more cockamamie. Schulenberg said that on 4/20 at 8:17 that he received a phone call from Phaedra and had an 11-minute conversation asking if he would talk with Dr. Kornfeld. They were trying to basically say that they were looking for Suboxone. You have to be specially trained to prescribe Suboxone medication, which Schulenberg said he was not. Then he said he went back to bed and started to receive those messages from Kirk at 11:12 p.m. He said he didn't see those messages until morning, when he got up and went to his office at 8:15 to finish his documentation on Prince's notes. Yes, this is what they say. Schulenberg, this is really important. Schulenberg then contacted Kirk to see if he was still in town. Kirk responded, "I'm here waiting for him, Prince, to wake up to give him something to take the edge off." Kirk then told Schulenberg he was waiting for Andrew Kornfeld for help. Schulenberg then texted that he had Prince's medical records and test results and would bring them over. But the important thing is, you guys, Schulenberg just said that Kirk was with Prince at 8:15 in the morning, giving him something to take the edge off. Okay? This also coincides, if you were so inclined, to believe that the phone call that he received at 8:17 could go along with that. And that's how they're telling their story, you guys, is like it went about 3 weeks, but it actually took place all at once. Because the other thing is this: why would Schulenberg text Kirk to say, "Got a call from Phaedra, hope it's legit, she had talked to you"? Yeah, just why? Legit? Hope it's legit? Seriously? And that's the 8:17 phone call I'm talking about. So blah, blah, blah. They're talking about he can drive over the test results because they don't have a fax or an email. But then if you recall back up at the top, this Schulenberg said that it was a complete coincidence that he had showed up at Paisley Park to discuss opiate treatment with Prince. So again, lies, lies, lies. Now, here is Kirk and Schulenberg, or one of the Kirk lookalikes, and Schulenberg coming back in with the medication. Okay. I did a bunch of screen grabs on what they show as the video. And if you watch it through, you'll see Schulenberg leaving the building with this blue bag in his hand. And then this thing is hanging here. And so I got to looking at it and wondering what it was. Well, it's a respirator mask for controlled drugs so that you don't breathe it in. So if you're messing and doing IV, or, you know, putting a gas mask over somebody's face and doing all kinds of drugging things, then you might want to cover your own face. So isn't that interesting? Yes, that's Schulenberg. Now, the famous stare picture, you guys, it came in, he said, the evening of the 20th at approximately, 9:38 p.m. it says. And then he said he didn't see it until the next day, okay? But the fact is, he was up talking to Phaedra and having that conversation and doing all the other things he was doing. So he absolutely would have got the stare photo picture. And then why is Kirk saying sorry for that photo? I think they scrubbed something out of this photo, if you ask me. Now, again, here's the other address, Dr. Michael T. Schulenberg, Water Street. I want to show you guys a couple things. Check with your own family doctor if you don't believe me. You ever get a prescription? I bet their name is written the same every single time. Again, the Water Street. Now, here's something I put a short video out on yesterday, you guys. If you look at Kirk's Instagram, it's Kirk Drums. He made a comment where he said, "Getting funky with the new crew." And then this guy named Schuler Events UK, I looked him up. It didn't say his first name. And he makes movies, the Schuler Events UK guy. And then so he's like, "Getting funky with the new crew, where you belong." And then what does Kirk say? "Thanks, doctor." So he's Kirk is thanking this guy with the name Schuler Events, who makes movies. And like I said, I made a little video about that. I could probably open it super fast if you guys were so inclined to wait. I posted it yesterday. Give me 1 second.
To do this for print. So,
what does that mean? What does Oscar Week mean for you?
oh, I work for the director of operations for a production company. So
That's Crystal Zahetner.
Yeah, we make movies.
With movies, making movies.
Yeah, we make movies.
Okay.
We make movies.
Okay.
We make movies.
Okay. You know what's interesting? This guy, Schuler Events UK. His last name, Schuler, is really close to Schulenberg. Not only that, but he makes movies. When you view his Instagram, you see a bunch of movies, skirt, and a bunch of prints. And that's right, Kirk Johnson. Kirk Johnson is on his Instagram, okay? But I wanted to show you something else just a second. You'll love it. This is one of Kirk's Instagrams.
So that's when I went and did that again, and showed that yesterday. And I just thought it was really interesting the way that Crystal Zahetner says that, yes, they make movies, and then Chris Wagner kind of chuckles about it and really uncomfortably. Now, granted, it says that guy's name is John on the Facebook, or excuse me, the Instagram, and I've tried to do a little bit of research about who he really was, but I can't find a lot of information. But I thought that was really intriguing, you guys. Doctor. Again, I'm going to go back and make another one of these videos on Andrew and on the Kornfelds and whoever else, you guys, because really, I'm just hoping to disclose the mass media narrative as the fraudulent story that it is. It is really just a story to cover up the real truth. But you all know I'm not going to let the real truth go undiscovered. So totally appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and that it gave you a little bit more information. Appreciate you. Love you. Bye.